Stadler here,
Carl Dusty with ya.
the Obsession Podcast, back at you here. Another new question for you today, Carl. What are some of the things you look for when buying land or leasing land? Price, location, etc.
Well, obviously, each one of us, this is how I look at it. Each one of us has our own financial lane, I guess I would say. So when you and I first started out, we didn't have no money. So we didn't have no land.
When we started out, we didn't have no money, or now?
Well, yeah, we're older now, we have no money either. But we do have some of our own land now.
Yes.
So obviously cost is important. Price and location is probably even more important to me. So I wouldn't go just buy a piece of property to have a piece of property, because no matter what people tell you, each area has its own specific deer herd. Now, depending on the size of the piece of the property, you can kind of control what your deer herd turns into, you think?
Yes.
But you can't just go buy a piece of property, let's just say central Dane County, where you got 5 acres or 3 acres of woods and 150 acres of cropland, expect to hold big deer on your property.
Right.
It's not gonna work out that way. So price and location to me are very important. More location, it's
Yeah.
location, because I can always save my money, so I can afford land in that location, right?
Right.
That's kind of the big thing when I look at it. Now leasing land, I mean, we've had leases. One in particular, big one that we had together, which was a great piece of property. Excuse me. And there was a ton of potential on that property. We shot some good bucks. I mean, you shot a lot of good bucks on that property. It was closer to your house than it was my place.
Yep.
What do we look for there? Well, you know, the surrounding area. Well, what do you have for neighbors? If depends on what you want to do. Whether you got to set your goals too, I guess. Don't you think?
That's one of the things I was going to say. As important as your piece of land is, the land around you is more important.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And I think a lot of people don't look at it that way.
No.
You know, you can have, so say you have let's just throw it out there, say you have a 33 acre piece of woods,
Yeah.
but you got nothing around it. You're not going to have any luck.
You're gonna have a couple deer, maybe.
You know, you have some deer that are going to go in there and out of there, but you know,
Probably not big.
what's across the street? What's, you know, on the backside of your property? Where do you think, is there a bedding area you think where these deer are going to hang out? You know, maybe you only have 5 acres.
True.
You can have 5 acres, shoot a giant every year.
Oh yeah,
Because
100%.
what do you got around you?
Yeah.
That's what people don't see, I think, a lot of times.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I'd go out as far as a mile, because we both
Yeah,
know
they're
that-
traveling that far anyway.
Yeah, deer travel a mile easy, in all direction. Don't just look at the mile one way or the other from your property. I'm talking like a mile radius. Your property's the center, take a mile radius one direction and make a big circle. So you're talking basically a 2.5 mile space all the way around your property. And then assess that property.
Yeah.
You know, I could have bought, when I went to purchase my property, for instance, there was properties that were closer in the same price range as what I paid, a little bit less the size, but the neighborhoods around it weren't gonna produce large numbers of good sized deer like I wanna shoot. I wanna shoot young deer every year if possible. And if not, I'll shoot whatever I got on the property, because you can't shoot them if they're not there anyway. That being said, I looked around, went out a little bit further and was able to find a piece of property where I think, you know, you could shoot a really good deer every year. You did the same thing here. I mean, you looked at property all over in your property.
A long time looking for property.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I know this area, you know, before I bought it.
well, that's the big thing, is educate yourself on the area. Well, I mean, you've got friends around the area that you've known and the type of deer that they shoot. Where I went, I did a bunch of kind of deep diving on the local area about what type of deer herds, how much private properties there, the size of the properties that people have, all of that, and purchased where I purchased. So it was a lot of educating yourself as much as anything else. What do we look for?
Food,
Yeah, you know,
cover, water.
yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple, right? But can you actually find all that on or near your property? That's the important
Yeah,
part.
you know, very rare are you gonna find a property that offers you everything.
No, but you can
But
make
you
stuff.
can make it.
That's right.
So, do you have the property that you can make the food,
Mhm.
make the water? You know, and when I say make the water, watering holes,
Mhm.
you know, things like that. If you have a stream or river or something like that runs through your property, which you do,
Mhm.
it's phenomenal. You
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that.
That part of it. Yeah.
But still, even though there's water in that location, doesn't mean you don't want water somewhere else,
Correct.
you know? And obviously, I feel, and I think you feel, I know you feel,
Mhm.
same way, you gotta have some food.
Oh yeah.
You gotta be able to put in some of your own food somewhere.
If you have private land, you have to have food plots. That's a 100% deal. There is you cannot not have your food be you cannot influence the deer herd without having food on your property, especially for hunting season for you. And we're both advocates of a lot more fall food than we are summer food, because in the summer they have everything they need.
Yeah. You don't want them on your property in summer. We've talked about that a million times.
No. Yeah.
You know, see you in October. That's when you want your deer coming in.
Right.
You want your food to grow, be there, be lush,
Yep.
and be there late,
Yeah.
you know?
You can have a little bit of food or whatever. For me, it was a little bit different than Mike's area. Mike's got more crops and stuff around his area, but for me, I had to put in a little bit of clover and stuff to help keep the doe herd happy on where my property is. But not big enough where I attract 100 does
Yeah.
to drop all their fawns on my property.
Yeah.
So, you gotta watch what you're doing there too. Mike's area, you know, your place is a little bit different. You got food all the way around.
Yeah, I have food 3 sides of my property.
Yeah.
One side is my food.
Right.
The other 2 sides are 2 separate farmers,
Mm-hmm.
which is always kind of nice
Mm-hmm.
because usually they're different. You know, usually we got a corn and we got beans, one to the other, swappy.
Mm-hmm.
And they go away always at the ideal time for me
Mm-hmm.
because then they're moving into mine,
Yep.
which is what I want. I put in the bedding areas,
Yeah.
you know, to keep the deer. You know, I would love to have some marsh. I don't have any marsh, but what I do have is a marsh 500 yards across the road from me.
Right.
And I have a trail system that I put in for them to follow, and it is a cow path right now.
Saying that you built structure for those
I
deer
built a
to
little
use?
bit of structure there,
Huh.
and it is a cow path right now. And
Oh, yeah.
the marsh is right over there.
Yeah.
We look out the window where we're sitting,
You guys can't see it, but it's a good looking marsh.
and deer funnel out of that up into mine.
Yeah.
You know, and they're, you know, and same on the east end of the property. I'm connected to a neighbor who is, I know him and his wife, and they own, I believe it's 50 acres on the back side of me,
Mm-hmm.
where they have a CRP field, a chunk of woods, a food plot, and I have the majority of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So another good area. On the other side of that, more food,
Yeah.
another chunk of woods,
Mm-hmm.
some more marsh. You know, it's always been a deer mecca around here anyway.
Yeah.
There's always deer around here, but you got to try to figure out how to get them ones that you want on
Well,
your property.
Here's another thing too, you know, don't be afraid to buy property somewhat close to public hunting land. Because what happens is, once the public hunting land starts to get hunted,
Yeah, they push them.
they push the deer.
Yeah.
So a lot of deer will transition over a mile from public hunting to all these private, smaller wood lines or wooded acreage, and you'll start to add to your deer herd substantially, especially the beginning of bow season, because people start to trample in.
And tromping around and kicking stuff up. And
Yeah, so that's one of the other things to look for. Now, price wise, I don't know where you're from. You know, for our state, currently, if you're hunting, let's just say you wanted to buy property here in southern Wisconsin, if you're buying just hunting property, wooded property, let's just say Iowa County, for instance, Pretty big deer mecca, quite a few deer in there. A lot of good bucks get shot out of there. I'll be honest, right now, a cheap property is $5,000 an acre on Iowa County. And my brother-in-law, when he purchased the extra 50 by his place, paid basically $5,000 an acre. So he bought 50 acres, $250,000.
Yes.
Dane County properties up to $10,000 an acre. Taxes are another thing you have to look at when you're buying property. You know, are you buying a place that's got trees on it? Are you buying a place that's already got a house on it?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Are you buying a place that has a building spot?
Yeah.
Building site already set aside,
Right.
which is gonna dramatically push your price up
Oh yeah.
on the property.
Yep.
And what can you spend? Everybody's got a budget.
Right.
I mean, you might find the best piece of property in the world, doesn't mean you can afford it.
No.
I mean, I would have loved to have bought the whole block.
Of course. Yeah.
Well,
right.
I mean,
Right.
And by block, I mean like both sides of the road,
Yeah.
all the way around.
Yeah.
Everybody go away.
I'm not gonna lie. Bigger's better. My
You know,
opinion.
Yeah, that's where bigger is better for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's last time I checked, they're not making any more land.
Nope.
That's
It
what I thought.
keeps going up.
So it's tough. If you're gonna get it when you can get it. Really.
Yeah.
I have a real good friend of mine right now looking for hunting property. Big into bow hunting.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
him and Phil. He loves it when we say his name out there.
Phil.
Old Phil. Looking for property and wants a chunk like mine or a chunk like Carl's and I'm like, dude, just find something that's got something around it too.
Yeah.
And so he's actively looking. If he finds something, he wants us to come down and check it out with him. And the problem is you can't dawdle. If
No.
you find it, you really got to be on it.
The one thing
Right
I
now.
would say, if you're gonna actually be serious about looking for land, go to your bank, get all your financing set up.
Get a pre-approval so you already got that cash.
Right.
You can just put an offer in if you need to.
Right, because that way you know how much you
Yeah.
can spend.
I
Here's
did
your
it.
budget.
I did it here. I'll tell you that I did it here.
Mm-hmm.
This property came on the market the day I saw it, and that's because another spot I hunt, my friend Todd owns the land. He actually came out to me in the morning and showed it to me on, I think it was Zillow maybe or something.
Mhm.
He said, "Hey, look at this property." I'm like, "Ooh!" Like I hunted that morning, got on my stand, drove here,
Mm-hmm.
walked it,
Mm-hmm.
called my wife, said, "You need to get here right now."
Yeah.
And I said, and she's like, "After work?" And I said, "No, now." Because for us, this was the ideal, what we wanted, where we wanted to build our house, how we wanted to do it.
Yep.
And I was in love with the property.
Yep.
Because I just saw nothing but potential.
Right.
And we put an offer in.
Yep.
That day. It was accepted in an hour.
Yep.
10 offers came in directly after that.
Oh yeah.
And they were all way more than we put in.
Yeah.
We put in a full price, no contingency offer.
Yeah.
Or we would have got it.
Oh
It
yeah.
would have been gone.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was that quick, one day.
Oh yeah.
When
When I did my land, I'll be honest, I went and looked at another piece of property and didn't have my finances all stuff and set and I was just starting to look. So we went and I found a piece that was awesome at 52 acres in Bear Valley. Had the building and everything on it already, had an extra cabin. It was a east facing slope, so predominant west wind would have been awesome the entire time.
Yep.
38 acres of woods, 52 acres total, with the open space, the do food plots, that ridge, I told you all about
Yep.
it. So it was a divorce deal. They wanted $200 and some thousand for it. And the realtor came out, it was cheap. And he goes, well, if you guys, it's been on the market for a while, if you guys want to put an offer in, I'll put an offer in for you. I'm like, yeah, I'd like to, but I have to finish up my financing. So we went and finished up my financing. It was a week later, my financing was done. I could buy a $400,000 piece of property if I wanted it. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, Jay," I said, "I want to put a bid on that property." And he gave me "Oh, Carl, you won't believe this." He goes, they accepted an offer today. I'm like, "Well, how much did they sell it for?" $173,000 in Bear Valley, dude, with a building. And I'm just like, and of course I was mad. I got home, and of course my wife knew I was mad, and she, pushed me to keep looking,
Right.
and I did. And then I found the place that I found now, which is better piece, bigger piece, And we got a for a great price too, which I'm not gonna tell anybody, but yeah, that was a phenomenal buy there too. But when I looked at it, it was what's around it. Well, it's all those hills, bigger
Yeah,
properties.
your property is surrounded by your property.
No, 100%.
And
Yeah.
when I say that, I mean it's the same same layouts and structures basically all around it, across
Yeah.
the street, and there's deer everywhere.
Yeah, and it's the same group of people mentality-wise when
Yeah.
it comes to deer hunting within general. All the people that do, there's a lot of gun hunting that goes on around my
Yes,
property.
for sure.
So that's another reason we've done what we've done with the property, to hold a deer during gun
Mhm.
season on, because we're not hunting them then.
No.
But the other guys and everybody who's hunting around me, they don't shoot bucks unless they're
Yeah.
big.
Yep.
And that shows in the deer herd.
Yep.
You know, you've seen it
For
again
sure.
this year. And that's important too. And plus, I went and talked around with a few people before I actually purchased the property in the local area to see if if it was the right fit for me. You know, I'm not gonna go bombing into buying a piece of property where my neighbors are the type of people that they shoot every damn deer they see, and that's gonna be somewhat of a deterrent for me too.
Mhm.
If I've got the time to make sure I can look for that. That's something I would also try to research if you've got time, but you can still make your property whatever you want it to be. Just realize that your limitations are your neighbors.
You're a slave to your neighbors. I've said
That's
that
100%.
100
Yeah. Yep. Slave to your neighbor. That's it.
Yeah, I have. For the most part, I have good neighbors around me.
Yeah.
They don't shoot deer unless they're big, and I got one neighbor likes to keep the does down,
Mhm.
which is nice. If you don't have to always worry about doing that, like he keeps the numbers in pretty good check. Him and his son take quite a few of them out, and they got people that come in and shoot does. His daughter shoots does.
Yeah.
They haven't shot a buck in several years.
We're still working on that down there by me.
Yeah, and like I said, we had talked early when we started doing the podcast this year that I was going to take feelers out. I don't think I have to now because the neighbor had a guy come in and shoot two of them,
Yeah.
and I only wanted to take two.
Right.
Which not happy about when they were shot. It is what it is, and a whole other topic, blah blah blah. So we have to talk about that.
Well, that's pretty much what
Yeah.
we're thinking about buying land
Yeah.
or leasing land. You're slave to your neighbor. Price is important. Get your financing straight before you go to actually buy land. See what you can afford,
Yeah,
because your bank's going to tell you what you can afford.
yeah,
Oh, the other thing about land, if you can't build on it or it doesn't have a house, your bank's not going to give you money for it.
no, it ain't worth much.
Nope.
And
Even if they tell you, the bank won't tell you. The bank will tell you what they think it's worth.
and what we've been talking about is like buying land, but I think leasing land
Ooh, yeah.
is
You didn't really touch on that.
yeah, whole different topic to me.
It is.
Because here's the first thing I want to know, because we've been in leases.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I want to lock that land up. I would like to get a 3 to 5 year lease
Mm-hmm.
myself. And I've told Phil, my buddy, he's just recently got a piece of land. He tried to do that. The guy wasn't in on it, so he got a year to year,
Yeah.
which is still, you got land. You got a
Right,
place
right.
to go. And why I say 3 to 5, like Carl, when I say 3 to 5, it gives you some opportunity to start to build something on there.
I think it takes 3 years,
Yeah,
Mike,
it does.
to build what you want to build on a
and-
property.
And in a lease, are they going to let you do what you want to do?
That's
or,
yeah.
Or not?
You have to talk to the landowner there too. There was a lease that I had by my place, in particular, where it started out, yeah, you could do food plots, and then all of a sudden the guy's like, well, no, I don't want you to do food plots. That's cheating. And the next thing he's telling me, well, I don't want you to use game cameras because that's cheating. He's like, well then, I don't want you to bring any of your friends on the property because, they're not paying an extra amount of money. I'm like, well, I'm paying the lease. You're letting me and any of my family hunt on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
these
so-
friends are my family.
Yeah. What are the terms? Everybody's going to have their terms.
And it's gonna change. So throughout that, it ended up basically I had to get rid of that lease. I just turned it down. Great place to hunt,
Yeah.
but it was just it got too restrictive.
Yep.
But it is their property,
Yeah.
and more power to them. I
100%.
understand that 100%.
But yeah, just a huge thing you got to think of. If you're just going to go in and just want a place to hunt
Right.
because you don't have a place to hunt, I get it, cause we've both been there,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but it sucks to, the other lease we had together,
Yeah.
we had for 11 years, a lot of work, a lot of time, and really, and I will say, we turned that property into
A mecca.
a mecca, and it was
Yeah.
it had everything you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just really, I think, getting into the tip of really starting to,
Oh, if we still had that property, dude.
yeah, like not the things we know now and have learned, like we would be giant slayers out there pretty easily just by the way the property was set up. But again, that property got too good.
Yeah.
People got egos.
Yeah.
People got problems. When you go in with a group of people,
Yeah.
it gets, some people can't handle it.
That's 100% true. Yeah.
And we lost that lease 100% because of that.
Yep. Yep. And the price of the lease too. So that lease now goes for a lot more money than we paid for it. And the reason for that is because of all the work we did because when we got there, that thing was raw. There wasn't nothing there.
Yeah, it was wrong.
We did food plots and all that. The one thing I remember distinctly was the first year that I was with you on it was the tornado came through.
Yes.
And all these trees, and I do not mean small trees, guys, I mean 20 inches plus, are over the trails to get in, laying over the entrance and exits of this property. And Mike and I went in there, and the other guys were going to show up, and everybody's going to help, right? Well, that didn't work out. Mike and I pretty much did the most of it, if not all of it, basically. Clearing it out so we can get in and out of there. 95 degrees out.
It was brutal,
Mosquitoes are
Yeah.
big as pterodactyls.
Yeah. Leases can be great. That lease in particular, I hate the people that I leased that with.
Yeah.
Jealousy is horrible when it comes to hunting, and I have no time for it.
Yeah.
And that can ruin that kind of stuff like that.
I came in after you guys were friends for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And you guys did, you did a ton of work for them that they just didn't realize. They just basically took advantage of it, in my opinion. And once we started hunting together and doing what we were doing, it got worse. Where they hated us.
Yeah, they didn't like to see success. And everybody out there is going to meet these people.
Oh yeah.
Well, what'd you do this for? Well, I would have did this, and would have been bigger next year. Or they're just jealous in the fact that you're harvesting deer.
Yeah.
And they're not.
We were told at one time that we were only going to shoot. We were doing a deer drive. Okay, here in Wisconsin, deer drives back 15 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, were big deals. So we were doing a deer drive, and we're going to shoot nothing but antlers, deer, and big bucks. So we're on a deer drive. I'm actually with Mike's stepdad. Mike's driving deer. He's pushing. You were pushing, I think. And all of a sudden we hear boom, 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 and I'm like, okay, great. We go over there and hear one of the brothers has got a fork buck laying there on the ground. I remember that distinctly.
Yep.
And I got so mad.
That was a big buck, though.
Yeah. I got so mad. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But, if you're going to establish rules, then the rules are for everybody.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest taking a lease with more than one or two of your best friends.
Yeah. And put everything out there at the beginning. This is what it's going to be. There isn't going to be no BS.
Yeah.
This is what we're all going to do. And this, I think, comes down to buying land, hunting land, leasing. You have to have the same goal and the same mindsets to be able to do it together.
Mm-hmm.
You can do anything you want by yourself.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But to do it together and to get along and to have success, which is what Carl and I want to do.
Enjoy the success for everybody. It's not just you.
So maybe you go a year, 2 years, 5 years, and you don't kill a buck, and your buddy does. Well, that is what it is.
I'll tell you right now.
Sucks, but
I was sitting there this year when Mike was talking in another podcast. I think we were talking about scents or whatever. And it's starting to get late, and I knew the bigger deer were going to be moving then. I was done. I was basically, I might shoot a doe or whatever. And I was probably only 110, 115 yards from where Mike was sitting in the bottom of the valley. And all of a sudden I hear, and the bow goes off. I got so tweaked up, I started shaking in the tree. And of course, I want to text him, but I don't know exactly what's going on, so I'm just gonna sit there or whatever, you know. So I'm waiting for him in the foo flat, just sitting there, just. I get down there and I can kind of see his shadow coming through. I'm like, what'd you shoot? What'd you shoot? I was probably more tweaked up than he was. He's like, well, I think I shot Judas Priest, dude. He's like, sorry about that. I was gonna let him go, but he looked too big. So we get up there. I'm like, well, congratulations. And we get up there, and I'm like, that is not Judas Priest. That thing is a giant, I think he was 100 and almost 130 inch.
Yeah, it was a
rack.
nice buck. Nice
Yeah,
buck.
dressed out 200 and.
223. That was a
That deer was a giant.
It was a pig.
Yeah, I'll show you guys pictures of that one, but yeah, I was more excited about him shooting that deer, I think, than, I was pretty excited when I shot my deer this year too, but yeah, I get excited when he shoots deer, so it's because then we're both succeeding, and that's the best part about it. So that's one thing you have to realize, I think, if you're ever going to lease with anybody, is it's not it's we.
Yeah, leasing can be pricey. You're usually going to travel.
Oh yeah.
That comes into mind. It's going to take you, like we talked about 3 years to get it ready. It's going to take you that long to figure it out.
Pretty much.
Most lands, you're not going to, not saying you can't go in and kill a big deer right away, but usually it takes you some time to figure out how a piece of property works, and especially if you can't spend a lot of time on it if it's a further away.
Yep.
It takes longer, so you got to remember that, and some pieces take more time to develop, or
100%.
who knows how they were hunted before. I know this place here was ravaged year after year.
Well, it took
And
you
so
a
was
few
the
years.
neighbors. Everybody and their uncle knew the people that owned this and owned that before. You could do whatever you wanted on it.
Mm-hmm.
People were driving it, shooting everything that moved, so it was tough to get deer to come here and want to be back in here,
You've done it now.
Yeah, we've done it now, but it's, that was 2018,
Yeah.
so we're 4 years.
Yep.
Coming into your 5 year or whatever, so it's, work.
Work, a lot of work. It's always going to be work.
Yes.
So I guess that's kind of the way we look at leasing and buying land, kind of what we look for. Hopefully you guys got some good information out of that one. So you got anything you want to add on that one, Mike?
Nope, I would just say it's, land buying or leasing is worth whatever you're willing to pay. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like anything else, how much you willing to pay and how much work you're willing to put in.
100%. And hunting is not a cheap sport. Remember that. It seems to be going up every year. So we appreciate you guys listening to The Obsession. Thanks for watching it on Rush Outdoors Wisconsin on YouTube. Appreciate all you guys' support over there. Get a chance, subscribe. Listen again next Saturday. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.